Tenet number 5 out of the 10 tenets of victory. This is one of my favorite ones. It's actually kind of 70s language. It says that we support people rather than programs. But we don't talk about programs anymore. We changed it a few years ago to projects. Same thing. But somehow this tenet fell like right through the cracks into the sewer, and and the deal has been we only support projects. Tenet number 5 is not against programs or projects, but it wants to make sure that programs and projects don't take our focus away from building people.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's far easier to raise funds for projects than it is for people. I think the reason is because that projects are something that you can see the end result. It's a limited time, limited commitment. You know, once the project is over, then it's done. But we need to invest in people, is what we really need to do.
For all of you people builders out there, you know that people are not always the most easiest thing to build, right? They can be really difficult. But we have to learn how to build a trust in people that is worth having our investment follow. If you're going to support people, it could be a long-term commitment, or you don't know how to get in and out of it, maybe.
Yeah.
So let's change it to we support people rather than projects. And we really, really do. Like in Asia, we're finding great success in that. Because if you'll build the people will take care of the projects.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll be supporting projects forever and a day and it'll never be finished. There's always going to be more projects. But if we build people who can be resourceful people and invest in other people, you know, I always say that instead of putting a roof on the church, let's build the people that are going to put the roof on the church.
Well, number one priority is people. That's what we invest in. We invest in people because it's the people who are going to do the work. People are our legacy, not buildings, not programs. People are the one who is going to carry the vision forward. People are the one that God is going to use to change lives. Buildings will crumble, pass away, but people take the message even to the ends of the earth.
What makes projects so easy? Well, projects make the leader look good. And projects do what they're told. And projects are a simple one-off, save the world, feel better about myself approach to the Great Commission. Another thing that tenet number 5 does, it requires us to know what's going on at the other end of a project before we invest in it, before we give to it. And I've seen so many times where there's been projects that have been given to that have failed or they weren't what they were advertised. I mean, so much of that stuff goes on all across the world all the time. I actually feel it's irresponsible for me to give into a project that I don't have an actual relationship with on the other end to make sure that I actually know what I'm investing in. We need to have that understanding that we're going to invest and support people. People that have a call and a purpose of God on their lives. I've got a good friend in Canada who years ago, well, he's been supporting the ministry for 40 some years anyway, but he asked me one time way back in the day, he said, Al, what is it that you really need? And I said, we really need food on the table. And he says, I can get behind that. Right? Like, don't give me a whole bunch of highfalutin vision and big stuff that you're going to do, change the world in a day and all that kind of stuff. We know that you guys have to eat over there. You have to drive around. You have to, you know, do all this stuff. I appreciate people that understand that. When we're talking about where we focus, we're actually talking about where we put our money, where we invest. You know the old saying, put your money where your tenet is? Into people. Where your heart is, that's where you'll spend your money.
You know, when we're talking about the investment is in developing people, it's because we are actually not called to lead projects or called to lead programs. We are called to lead people.
Right.
And so our treasure is in those that we're developing. And sometimes it can be a little bit scary because when you invest in a person, they have a will, they have a mind, and it can end up going anywhere. When you invest in a building, it's going to be there. It's going to stay there, you know. So there's a little bit more of a risk when you're working with people, but the reward that you get from people is exponential. Victory Asia looks like a group of men and women who are super passionate, on fire for Jesus, people who are full of faith, people who are tenacious, people who are full of energy and strength. We're people who don't know how to quit. We keep running forward and we don't look back. We're people who, because of our love for God, because of our relationship with Him, we are purposeful in accomplishing the Great Commission to go into all the world and preach the gospel. You know, we do that not because we feel like it's just our calling or because we have to. We do it because we love Jesus. And when you have the love of God in your heart like that, and you have the heart of the Father for the world, you can't help but just go. And so everything that we do is about building people. We're not building a kingdom, we're not building ministries, we're building people, because that's what God has called us to do. He's called us to be the church and be his hands and feet. Because one person can multiply themselves. A building can't multiply anything.
Right.
A project can't multiply anything. And so when we understand that if our treasure is in people, then that's where the principle of multiplication in our ministry happens. And so when we talk about investing in people, what we're saying is it's not the cell group that is the thing that's going to build the right leaders. It's not the church program that's going to build the right leaders. I think sometimes we think that if we had the right program or the right project in place, then we would build the right people. But those programs and those projects and those groups, we're behind all of that. We do all of that. We love all of that. But those are there to support the development of people. So we're not trying to pull people into our project, pull people into our program, pull people into our cell group. What we're doing is we have people and then we build them through the things that we get them to be involved in and connected in. So programs are there, projects are there to serve the growth of the people. It's not the other way around.
Yeah, I call it infrastructure. It's needed in order to build the people. And you can tell if you are project or program oriented rather than people oriented in the way that you invest your time and everything. And that is that if you have this idea of a project or program, it can't fail.
Right.
It's embarrassing if it fails. And there's this resistance to changing something because that was the good idea that you promoted before.
Yeah.
Turns out it wasn't such a good idea, but we can't let it go now. That's investing in projects rather than in people.
Yeah.
Because if it's in people, we're willing to change anything. You know, and I've always said that about the Bible College here. Like we started out, International Bible College, training leaders from the nations, and I've always said that if that seems to have run its course, let's change it to something else. Let's change it to a missions training center or whatever it may be, because it's not the project that matters,
that's right.
It's the people.
And in order for tenet number 5 to work, connection is key. Relationship. You have to have relationship with those that God's called you to lead. It is easier to connect with your projects and your programs because it doesn't require such an investment of time. But in order for us to really move ahead in the thing that God's called us to do, we have to know how to build healthy relationships with people, how to really see the value in them, learn where we need to invest in them and pull out the best in them.
It's the people that need Jesus. It's people that need to be built. They need to be discipled. They need to be invested in. They need to be cared for. They need to be brought into the fold, into the family.
And if we're committed to people, then that's the thing that's actually going to get us from point A to point B, because God's called us to work in tribe. He's called us to work in family. Multiplication happens through other people. So that's where it is. The be fruitful and multiply thing happens through relationships.
And I think actually if we take it a level deeper, investing or having that mind or that mode of operation to invest in projects or programs is actually very dangerous, because what happens then is you fail the people that you're supposed to be investing in. You know, I had a friend years ago tell me that, you know, I've noticed your kids, Al, and they really feel that you put a lot of pressure on them to go into the ministry. And I'm like, guilty. Because that's what we want to build. And these kids are in the ministry and flourishing. And so if we're really investing in people, we'll be looking at the future that's possible for them.
Yeah, that's right.
Rather than how good a project makes us look. And so when you look at some of the people that we've invested in over the years, Becky, I mean, we have some absolutely amazing people. And I honestly believe that we wouldn't have them, even if we'd have done the same things, but had been focused on projects and programs rather than those people. Because of that, the focus that we have on the people, we are willing to change anything at any time, to scrap anything, to start something else or whatever, because we just need the right infrastructure that will facilitate building these amazing people that we've got all across Asia. I don't know about you, but I've seen some great counterfeits to investing in people, you know, things that become really, really important projects, like building an organization where the organization has precedence or has importance over the people, or building what should we call an ideology where some people think that their doctrinal viewpoint, right, their doctrinal stance is more important than actually ministering and building people. Another thing that I've watched people invest in that's kind of a waste of time is the policies and procedures thing. You know, you can put together a humongous policies and procedures book and you think that that's going to control people or guide people. It won't. People are guided by their hearts. And we've had policies and procedures sticking out our ears. In fact, we've had some come down the pipe towards us saying, this is the new policy that's just come out. You got to follow this. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm kind of busy here and I'm working on people because we're called to disciple the nations. Another very distracting project is to work on building the protections and the securities, the controls over things that we've built over the years. You know, you can build a great ministry that now has lands and buildings and those kind of things, and then if protecting those things becomes more important than building the next generation of people, you'll actually lose your vision. So think of projects or programs in this way, is that they're designed and meant to serve people. And when a project fails to serve people, it needs to be 6 feet under, right? I mean, you think of schools, even universities and things like that, that were built from the ground up, out of a pure gospel heart to serve people, to build the people of God, that over the years have become so wrapped up in themselves and so ideological and so useless that they no longer serve people at all. In fact, they see that the people that they used to serve are now supposed to be there to serve them. The thing becomes just so organizational, top-heavy. And the same thing can happen in churches, where the church becomes the important thing, more important than the people, you know, the success of the church. Honestly, 300 years from now, what's going to be left? The people that we build, and the people that they build, and the people that they build. And so that's really our goal, is from Jesus' perspective, is for us to make disciples who will make disciples who will make disciples, to plant churches that make disciples, not to plant churches that become great cathedrals that we can be proud of. But everything that we do, according to tenet number 5 here, needs to be with the focus of serving and building people.
The kingdom of God is going to be released through us, humans, people.
So we investing in people rather than programs or projects. And that means that that's your love, that's your focus, it's your passion. And if a program or a project isn't pulling its weight or isn't doing what it was meant to do, just scrap the thing. It's not worth anything, and get on with the people.